طبعا قد يشكك المشاهدون الآن في تقويم العلماء السوفييت للإنجازات الأمريكية باعتبار أن الآخرين خصومهم، ولذلك بودي أن نتحدث عن التشكيك من كبار الشخصيات الأمريكية في شؤون الفضاء آنذاك. قليلون يعرفون بقصة الوفيات الغريبة لشخصيات كبيرة ومؤثرة ممن ساهم في المشروع الأمريكي لغزو القمر وأرادوا قول الحقيقة. مثلا لقى مصرع توماس بارون كبير المفتشين في مشروع أبولو في أبريل عام 67 قدم تقريرا في الكونغرس من 500 صفحة أعلن فيه بوضوح عدم صلاحية المشروع بالكامل للتحليق إلى القمر، وفي اليوم التالي لقي حتفه في حادث سير. وفي يناير عام 67 أثناء اختبار مركبة أبولو 1 احترق 3 من أبرز رواد الفضاء الذين تم إعدادهم للتحليق إلى القمر، وعلى رأسهم فيرجيل غريسوم
الذي تجرأ على النقد الصريح وعلق ليمونة على هيكل مركبة أبولو.
والليمونة دليل على رداءة المعدات التقنية. وحتى الآن يتردد على لسان كل من أرملة فيرجيل غريسوم وابنه أن مصرع رواد الفضاء الثلاثة المذكورين وكذلك توماس بارون لم يكن بمحض الصدفة، وإنما هي عملية مدبرة من الاستخبارات الأمريكية، لأن هؤلاء الأشخاص أرادوا أن يتحدثوا علنا عن أن مشروع أبولو مشروع فاشل بالأساس.
كان هؤلاء شخصيات باهرة قوية. ففي عام 67 أيضا وبعد الحريق الذي شب في أثناء اختبارات أبولو 1 لقي مصرعهم إذا لم تخن الذاكرة 5 آخرون من رواد الفضاء الأمريكي.
حوالي 10 رواد لقوا مصرعهم في ظروف غامضة.
في عام 67 وحده، هذا تقريبا حوالي 20% من مجموع فصيلة رواد الفضاء الأمريكيين.
طبعا أوردت هذه الأمثلة لأبين أن العلماء السوفييت لم يكونوا وحيدين في انتقادهم للمشروع الأمريكي الخاص بغزو القمر. الأمريكيون أنفسهم وحتى على أعلى مستوى داخل وكالة ناسا أبدوا شكوكا كبيرة في ذلك. هذه التفاصيل. على كل حال، لديك تسجيل صوره شخص أمريكي يوم انطلاق الصاروخ أبولو 11 إلى القمر برواد فضاء نزلوا على سطحه، أي أن تلك اللقطات تبين بوضوح الانطلاق الحقيقي لهذا الصاروخ. وأنت كبروفيسور ودكتور في علوم الرياضيات درست هذه اللقطات وتوصلت إلى استنتاجات مثيرة للاهتمام. هل حدثتنا عن ذلك لو سمحت؟
بل وأكثر من ذلك، أنا أرجو منك أيضا، ولكن بوصفك متخصصا في مجال العلوم الإنسانية، المشاركة في تفحص هذا المشهد. إذن عندما يطلق إلى الفضاء أي صاروخ، وليكن صاروخنا من طراز سيوز مثلا، فإنه عند 42 يبلغ أعلى طبقة من الغيوم كما لو أنه يثقبها، وإذا لم يبلغ الصاروخ خلال هذه المدة الوجيزة تلك النقطة فلن يخرج إلى المدار حول الأرض.
يجب أن تكفيها 40 ثانية.
لابد أنك سافرت بالطائرة مرات عديدة وشاهدت غيوما تحت الطائرة.
طبعا.
وفوقها سماء صافية فقط.
نعم صحيح.
وماذا يخبركم كابتن الطائرة عن الارتفاع؟
حوالي 10,000 متر.
نعم، حوالي 10,000 متر، وأحيانا 9,000. عندئذ كل الغيوم تكون تحت الطائرة. ولأجل التأكد والمصداقية أريكم هذه الصورة. هذا جناح الطائرة وتحته بحر من الغيوم المترامية في الفضاء كله. يوم إقلاع أبولو 11 التي حملت رواد فضاء إلى القمر كان الجو صحوا ومشمسا. والآن لننتقل إلى عيوب الصور الرسمية لوكالة ناسا.
كلها خضعت للمونتاج.
هذه اللقطات كثيرة جدا، وكلها تعرضت لعملية مونتاج بالتأكيد. لكننا أنا ورفاقي من المختصين اكتشفنا بمحض الصدفة في هذا الكم الضخم من المواد المسجلة تصويرا لفيليب فرانك باليجا. هذا الشخص كان يعمل في برنامج أبولو، أي كان أحد العاملين في مركز الصواريخ، ولكن كوفئ برحلة إلى مركز كينيدي إلى المطار الفضائي كي يشاهد انطلاق أبولو 11. اتصلنا بهذا الشخص مباشرة، فأكد أنه قام بتصوير متواصل بكاميرته الشخصية ولم يخضع الشريط لأي مونتاج. والأكثر من ذلك، لدينا إمكانات تكنيكية لا نتحدث عنها أتاحت لنا التأكد من أن عملية التصوير تلك متواصلة فعلا. وثمة جملة من المؤشرات تدل على حقيقة الأمر. وبمساعدة هذه المشاهد المصورة درسنا تحليق الصاروخ ثانية بثانية منذ لحظة انطلاقه وحتى الثانية 173. عند 162 من التحليق ينفصل عن الصاروخ جناحه الأول، وهذا المقطع تحديدا هو الرئيس والأهم والأصعب في التحليق. هنا أود أن تتفحص معي ثواني التحليق هذه في الزمن الحقيقي. وقد حضرت ساعة توقيت تمكن المشاهدين من مراقبة الزمن، وسننتبه بشكل خاص إلى عداد الثواني لنصفر هذا العداد ونزامنها مع ساعة توقيت الشريط المسجل. إذن ها نحن جاهزون لتشغيله، والكلمات المكتوبة هنا تعني إطلاق تشغيل المحركات. كما ترى أطلقت عداد الثواني. ها هو الصاروخ قد انفصل بصعوبة. مرت 10 ثوان حتى تجاوز برج منصة الإطلاق، واصل حركته نحو الأعلى. ألفت الانتباه إلى أن فيليب باليجا لم يدع الصاروخ يفلت حتى لثانية واحدة من عدسة الكاميرا. حساب الوقت مستمر. مرت 30 ثانية، يجب أن ننتظر أيضا حوالي 100 ثانية أخرى. ها هو الصاروخ يعبر غيوم منخفضة غير كثيفة متماعدة فيما بينها. انتبه إلى الصاروخ الآن، سيبدو وكأنه يثقب هذه الغيوم. هذه ظاهرة لحظية. أما من اليسار فسنلمح ظل الصاروخ. نرى الآن هذا الظل على هذه الغيوم. مرت 60 ثانية، التحليق مستمر. لو كنا نراقب تحليق صاروخنا من طراز سيوز لكان هذا الصاروخ قد ثقب الغيوم قبل ذلك. أما أبولو الأثقل وزنا فيتحرك بصعوبة، بتثاقل، ببطء. إنه أسرع من أي طائرة طبعا، أما كصاروخ فهو يزحف عمليا. الآن مرت 90 ثانية وأنا أستعد لتوقيف العداد. ها هو الصاروخ يدخل الغيوم. فلنتوقف. نرى بشكل جيد ثقبا في الغيوم. نوقف العداد. ها هو الثقب، ويبدو واضحا ظل الصاروخ. نتوقف. يبدو لنا واضحا الثقب في الغيوم. الصاروخ تجاوز الغيوم بنجاح. والآن لنلقي نظرة إلى عداد الثواني. نرى على اللوحة الرقم 115. يمكنني القول إن الأرقام في هذه الحالة مأساوية. القياسات الأكثر دقة ستعطينا 107 ثوان. هذا يعني أن بوسعنا استخلاص ما يلي. خلال هذه الثواني 107 بلغت سفينة الفضاء أبولو 11 ارتفاعا يقدر بحوالي 8000 متر لا أكثر. فأين يجب أن تكون في هذا الوقت لتتمكن من الخروج إلى المدار؟ ألفت الانتباه إلى أن هذه المؤشرات بالنسبة لجميع الصواريخ الفضائية بغض النظر عن تصميمها يجري حسابها على النحو نفسه في أمريكا وفي روسيا، لأن مبادئ هذه الحسابات واحدة.
طبعا فهي مشتقة من قوانين الفيزياء.
وهي في يدي صفحة العنوان للتقرير النظري الذي أعدته شركة بوينغ بعد أن حسبت مسار تحليق مركبة أبولو 11 التي قيل إنها حلقت إلى القمر. لقد أبرزت سطرا واحدا في هذا التقرير. وفق حسابات شركة بوينغ كان يفترض بالصاروخ أن يصل عند الثانية 107 إلى ارتفاع يبلغ 25,000 متر.
25 كيلومترا.
نعم، ونحن نرى أنه كان على ارتفاع دون ذلك ب3 مرات على أقل تقدير.
وماذا يعني ذلك؟
هذا يعني أن خروج هذا الصاروخ إلى المدار مستبعد تماما، وأن الصاروخ نفسه هو صاروخ تجريبي. تبين الحسابات أن الصاروخ لا يمكن أن يحترق في طبقات الجو العليا طالما كان على ارتفاع منخفض. إذن يجب أن يسقط في مكان ما. وبناء على معطيات مختلفة تم تحديد المنطقة التقريبية لسقوط أجزاء معينة من هذا الصاروخ. هذا ما أكدته مصادر مختلفة. ونقطة السقوط تقع في منطقة جزر الآزور.
ولكن لابد من وجود شهود عيان لسقوط هذا الصاروخ.
يجب القول إن جزر الآزور من حيث حسابات السقوط تم اختيارها عن علم ودراية. ففي هذه الجزر توجد بضع من أهم القواعد البحرية الأمريكية. لذلك فإن المنطقة البحرية القريبة من جزر الأزور وحتى أبعد نقاطها تعد منطقة حماية مشددة.
أي أن الأسطول الأمريكي يسيطر على المنطقة.
نعم، الأسطول الأمريكي والطيران الأمريكي.
أما العامل الثاني كما أعتقد فكان مرتبطا بالسباق نحو القمر، مرتبطا بسمعة البلدين، بمكانتهما المعنوية في مجال غزو الفضاء، وهذا ما أود الحديث عنه. إذن كما نعلم من الرواية الرسمية فقد حلق الأمريكيون إلى القمر لأول مرة في عام 1969، وكما ذكرت في الحلقات السابقة لم يكن الأمريكيون يزودوننا بالإحداثيات المتعلقة بمسارات تحليق صاروخهم، فمن ناحية كانوا يتظاهرون بالشفافية حيث يدعون المئات لمشاهدة انطلاق صواريخهم نحو القمر، ومن ناحية أخرى لا بد أن يعي المرء أن ذلك كله مجرد استعراض. فماذا بوسعك القول عن صاروخ تراه من مسافة 5 كيلومترات؟ وهكذا فإن سفننا المخصصة للاستطلاع والرصد اللاسلكي كانت تناوب لحظة ذاك الإطلاق عند أقرب نقطة ممكنة من المطار الفضائي في كيب كانفيرال، أي من المسافة المتاحة، وهي 12 ميلا أو أكثر من 19 كيلومترا بقليل من الشواطئ. كانت 7 سفن ترصد بأجهزتها اتجاه تحليق الصاروخ، وكانت تعمل فيها أيضا الأجهزة البصرية التي هي الأخرى توفر غير قليل من المعلومات. ها أنا أعرض عليك مثلا صورة التقطت من سفينة استطلاع تابعة لنا، ساحل هونولولو، هاواي.
هذه من مسافة 20 كيلومترا؟
نعم، هذه التقطت من مسافة 24 كيلومترا. أعطاني هذه الصورة الشخص الذي التقطها. الصاروخ من هذه المسافة يبدو هكذا.
نعم، مفهوم.
وفضلا عن ذاك كان يجب نشر هذه السفن هناك بطريقة ذكية. إليك لماذا؟ آنذاك عندما كان جميع المشاهدين في الساحات المكشوفة يتابعون بأنظارهم انطلاق الصاروخ، قامت 15 سفينة حربية أمريكية بتطويق سفننا، سفن الاستطلاع السوفيتية، وبعد ذلك طفت على السطح غواصات وفوقها حامت طائرات تحمل أجهزة تشويش. إن استخدام كل هذه المعدات والآليات كلف 250 مليون دولار.
ولكن من أين لك هذه المعلومات؟
كتب عن ذلك ألكسندر جيليزنيكوف، رئيس تحرير مجلة أخبار شؤون الفضاء والمستشار السابق لشركة إنيرجيا المتخصصة في التكنولوجيا الفضائية.
إنيرجيا التي تعمل في تصميم وتصنيع أحدث الصواريخ الروسية.
جيليزنيكوف هو عضو فيدرالية شؤون الفضاء الروسية، عمل في حينه في مكتب رادوغا للتصميم الذي كان يشتغل على كل الإلكترونيات الخاصة، ومنها ما يتعلق بالصواريخ الفضائية.
هذه معلومات هامة كي يعرف المشاهدون أنك لا تجمع المعلومات وحسب، بل وتصنفها حسب المصادر وأهميتها. جمعت الشهادات المختصين الذين كانت لهم علاقة مباشرة بهذه المسائل.
وهكذا فإن السفن الأمريكية التي أحاطت بسفننا رفعت الأغطية عن مدافعها إظهارا لحدة الموقف، وطائرات أوريون ومحطات التشويش الإلكتروني الساحلية شوشت على أجهزة السفن السوفيتية وحالت دون عمل معدات الرصد الموجودة على تلك السفن.
كي لا تسجل الأجهزة السوفيتية مسار الصاروخ،
كي لا ترصده، ولكن من الصعب تعطيل أجهزة 7 سفن دفعة واحدة إذا كانت منتشرة بطريقة ذكية على مسافات معينة من بعضها. وهكذا رغم كل شيء تمكن خبراؤنا من تحديد وجهة تحليق الصاروخ، ونحن تأكدنا أيضا من ذلك بالوثائق، بالتحليل الدقيق لبيان التسلسل الزمني لتحليق الصاروخ، كما أورد ذلك ألكسندر جيليزنيكوف في كتابه. وبحسب البيان يتضح أن خبراءنا توقفوا عن المراقبة ما أن صمت الصاروخ، علما بأن الصاروخ يطلق إشارات لاسلكية دائما، وإذا توقف الصاروخ عن إرسال الإشارات فيجب التوقف عن المراقبة والرصد.
ولكن لماذا صمت الصاروخ؟
زعموا أنه دخل المدار، بينما في حقيقة الأمر هو سقط في المحيط الأطلسي.
ولكن كيف عرفوا إن كان دخل المدار أم سقط في المحيط الأطلسي؟
كما ذكرت كانت السفن السوفيتية ترصد تحليق الصاروخ، وقامت بذلك على نحو ممتاز بواسطة الراشدات اللاسلكية، وهذه الطريقة معروفة من زمن الحرب العالمية. تجري عمليات الرصد والتتبع لمصدر الإشارة اللاسلكية من زاويتين مختلفتين، ولنتذكر أن لكل منا عينان 2 ما يساعدون على الإحساس بالمسافة. سفينتان على مسافة غير كبيرة إحداهما عن الأخرى، يمكنهما عبر رصد الإشارات اللاسلكية تحديد المكان الذي تصدر منه. وإذا كانت هناك 7 سفن تقوم بهذه المهمة، فلا شك أنها ستحدد المصدر بدقة أكبر.
وعلى نحو مؤكد،
لقد تحقق خبراؤنا من أن تلك الصواريخ المتجهة إلى القمر كانت تسقط في منطقة جزر الأزور. قام الخبراء بالرصد 3 مرات، أما الآن وبمرور الوقت يغدو مفهوما لماذا كانت تسقط في هذه المنطقة، لأن فيها عددا كبيرا من القواعد العسكرية الأمريكية الجوية والبحرية.
هذه الصورة من هناك؟
نعم، هذه الصورة من إحدى تلك القواعد. هذه المنطقة مغلقة عمليا، الإبحار حولها ممكن طبعا، لكن مياهها مغلقة أمام السفن الكبيرة دون موافقة الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية. إنها منطقة ملائمة جدا لكي يوجه إليها مثلا مجسم مركبات الفضاء أبولو، ففي حقيقة الأمر لم تكن تقلع باتجاه القمر مركبات تحمل رواد فضاء، بل مجسمات فارغة. وتم التحقق من أن الصواريخ الأمريكية تنهي رحلتها على مسافة بضع مئات الكيلومترات جنوب جزر الأزور، وهي واضحة على الخريطة. تلك الصواريخ تغرق بالكامل بجميع أجزائها ما عدا جزء واحد، أي الكبسولات التي يفترض أن يجلس فيها رواد الفضاء، لكن هذه الكبسولات كانت فارغة وكانت مزودة بمنظومة هبوط مظلي. بعد سقوطها كانت تلتقطها السفن الحربية الأمريكية المرابطة في القاعدة. وكما سبق وذكرت، رصدت السفن السوفيتية في عام 1969 3 مرات 3 عمليات إطلاق لمركبات من طراز أبولو. كان عدد السفن يرتفع من مراقبة إلى أخرى، ولاحقا كف الاتحاد السوفيتي عن رصد الإطلاقات، حيث أننا كما يبدو فاهمنا كل شيء.
اتضحت الأمور،
تيقنا من حقيقة الأمور هناك. كل شيء
As you say, if a pilot is flying around the curve of the Earth, then he should be dipping the nose down every 5 minutes. He should be dipping the nose down to stay around the curve. But the thing that really got me interested was, as you say, the gyroscope. In a plane, there is an artificial horizon. Okay, and it's based on a gyroscope. And if you spin a gyroscope on a surface, it will want to stay upright. You can twist and tilt the surface as much as you like, the gyroscope will stay upright. So, if a plane has a gyroscope and it starts following the curve of the Earth, the gyroscope would stay upright, which means the artificial horizon will start to roll backwards. But it doesn't. That's absolute proof that a plane flies over a flat surface rather than a curved one. Because I asked the pilot on my last flight, do you ever notice the artificial horizon rolling backwards? He said, no, but the artificial horizon has complex electronics in it to make sure it knows where it is on the Earth and it compensates. But I went to the manufacturer of the artificial horizon, and they confirmed to me that it's completely mechanical, nothing electronic in it whatsoever. So it's literally just a gyroscope that can freely move. So that right there is proof to me that planes fly over a plane.
If there were any curvature at all, not only would the gyroscope detect it in an airplane, it would detect that ridiculous amount of curvature that I was talking about earlier, that you'd have to be compensating at the rate of 2,800 foot per minute in a standard jet airliner. But guess what? The gyroscope simply does not detect that. Why doesn't it detect it? Because there's no curvature to the Earth. End of story. There's so many things that prove this, and anybody that thinks that there is any modification going on to the gyroscopic mechanism itself that is modifying for the curvature of the Earth is deluded, and they simply have not done their homework.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Jonathan, how you doing?
Good.
All right. So I understand, Jonathan, you are not only a pilot, but a CFI, possibly a CFII. Yes, is that correct?
CFII, MEI, AGI, ATP.
Ooh, ATP even. Holy cow. All right. So this guy's qualified, guys. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah. And on a flight that I do regularly for some of our charter work, I take that twin engine. I fly it to a local city. It's about just over 100 miles away. And I did the math for that. And I would have to literally be dropping, on average, over 200 feet per minute constantly the entire flight in order to get there, to not gain, lose altitude, and correct for the curvature. Yes. And I don't do that.
Yeah.
But either way, I realize too that when I was saying that 200 foot a minute, that's a constant rate descent. You're going over a curve. It's going to be push down, pause, push down, pause. You're going to keep pushing a little at a time. Like, so you kind of go level for a bit, then push, then level in a bit. But you're not doing a constant rate descent because you're going through the earth. You can't, it's going to constantly keep changing. And so every time you change and you make that slight push over, especially in a jet going 1,000 miles an hour, it's going to be pushing you out of your seat.
I know. And then you have, of course, the airline pilots, and this is interesting. You have to wonder how many of the airline pilots actually do realize that it's flat, but they can't say it because they'd lose their job.
Exactly. When I first went on, I wrote Mark Sargent a while back. That's how I first got into this. I just heard his stuff, got into it, and I just wrote him. And I said, hey, just for the record, I said, I'm a pilot. And I said, I'm kind of calling BS on some of this, and he ended up contacting me, and we ended up doing an interview. But after I did that, ever since then, over the last year or so, how long it's been, the number of pilots, airline pilots, professional pilots that have called me at my business, my secretary answers the phone and says, oh, you have a phone call from a guy in New York. And I'm like, who's that? And get on the line, and it's some guy, and he says, hey, I just want to make sure you're real. And I said, what? And he says, well, yeah, I heard your interview. He says, I'm an airline pilot, retired off of United or wherever. And, and starts telling me, he's like, I used to buy into everything. And he's like, somehow he caught on to it, woke up, and he's like, I think back on my whole career, and he says, I can't disprove any of it. He's like, it's all, they agree with me, and they've all told me, they said that they said you'll never get an airline pilot to announce it publicly that's still active because of the fact that they're going to lose their job. So, and I've always said, I'm self-employed. I don't, I have nothing to lose in that regard.
None of it makes sense. The problem is that we're taught as children, this ball earth lie. And, you might ask as a child, what about the people in Australia? They're standing on the bottom of the globe, won't they fall off? And your teacher says, no, gravity. And you go, oh, okay. And you never go back to that question. But when you go back to it as an adult and start looking at it with a critical eye, right, the whole thing falls apart. As you say, the globe is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's a leading astronomer in America, tells us that the Earth is not a perfect circle. It is actually an oblate spheroid. It's squashed, and wider at the equator. Yeah.
So you spin. When you spin pizza dough, it kind of flattens out. Yeah. Gets wider in the middle, and so Earth, throughout its life, even when it formed, it was spinning, and it got a little wider at the equator than it does at the poles. So it's not actually a sphere; it's oblate, and officially it's an oblate spheroid. That's what we call it. But not only that, it's slightly wider below the equator than above the equator.
A little chubbier.
Yeah. Chubby's a good way. It's like pear-shaped.
So my question to him would be, why is there land at the equator? Because water will move more readily than rock. So if the Earth is spinning, the water will be collected at the equator. I mean, if you spin a wet tennis ball, the water shoots off at the equator, essentially. So all the water will be gathered around the equator. So why is there land at the equator? Doesn't make any sense. The other thing that's about the spinning Earth is looking at the stars. Now, directly above the axis of spin is the pole star, Polaris, okay, directly over the North Pole. And we're told that the reason that all the stars spin around the the North Star is because the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. Okay, seems to make sense because if you put a long exposure camera pointing at the North Star, you'll see the stars will make perfect circles around, perfect star trails. The only problem is the Earth is also orbiting the Sun at 67,000 miles an hour. Okay, the Sun is moving, dragging the Earth and all the planets up that way or that way at 600,000 miles an hour. So why do we see perfect circles? You know, because that's the slowest speed, that's slowest motion in that mix, and yet the Earth is moving 67 times faster that way and 600 times faster that way. So you should see the stars do all sorts of strange motions, but you don't. You only see them make these perfect circles. That tells me that it's the stars that are moving, not the Earth. The thing is, what the scientists will give you is calculations and and theories why that happens. But we have experience. We see things and they either make sense or they don't make sense. What the scientists do is substitute our common sense and our intuition for calculations and theory, and we're supposed to believe the calculations rather than what we experience ourselves. There was a famous experiment back in the 1800s in England called the Bedford Levels experiment. Now, the Bedford Levels is a canal that is perfectly straight for 6 miles. Okay, so what a chap called Samuel Rowbottom did was he took a telescope, put it in the water about 8 inches above the water, and he had a friend, in a rowboat with a flag on the back, row all the way to the other end, and he was able to see the flag on the back of the rowboat the whole distance. Now, according to spherical trigonometry, the curve of the Earth is 8 inches per mile squared. So over 5 miles, that's 5 times 5, 25, times 8, which is 200, works out, that's 200 inches, which works out at 16 feet. That means the boat should have been 16 feet below the horizon. He shouldn't have been able to see the boat. Now, the scientists will say, oh, refraction and this and light bending around the Earth and stuff. But the fact is, it's perfectly flat, and he in his book he puts forward many arguments that show that, or many experiments that show the Earth is always perfectly flat. They say that you see the mast, go down last. It's literally just the way your vision works. Yeah, it's perspective and atmospherics basically. The limit of your vision is supposedly 3 miles, and then after 3 miles you're supposed to see the boat start to go over the horizon. It's funny that Neil deGrasse Tyson again says that explains that you can't see the curvature of the Earth from a plane. He says this, you can't see the curvature of the Earth from a plane because you're not high enough. The Earth is so big that you can't get high enough to see the curvature. Yet you can apparently see a boat go over the curvature over the distance of 3 miles, which doesn't make sense. Apparently you can't see it. Yes.
Where is all this non-existent curvature? Well, I can tell you where it is. And it's in textbooks, and it's in the heads of NASA and science fanboys everywhere. Where it doesn't exist is in reality. Now let me give you a final example of this. Let's take this scene that we're looking at here and imagine that we've got 3 people. Okay, we've got the person in the red on the left, the white in the middle, the blue on the right, and we are the green person. We're up a little bit high, we may be on a mountain. Now we can take a look at the distances that each person is from each other. So, the person that is red is 4 miles away from the person in white, and the red and blue are 8 miles apart. The red and green are 5 miles apart. Blue and white are 4 miles apart. Blue and green, 5 miles apart. And green and white, 4 miles apart. That should make plenty of sense. Now from here, we can imagine what each of these people would be able to see at the distance they are away from each other. Since we are higher up, we can see the whole entire scene in front of us. Correct? Now, let's draw lines of what each person can see. So we are the green mark, and we can see all the way to the blue, we can see all the way to the red, and we can see all the way to the white. Here's the problem. The red heading towards the white, let's say there's a boat going across that blue line there, say that's a river. The person in red would lose the boat there at the purple curve. And the person in blue on the right would lose the boat there at the purple curve. So what we have here is proof that the reason the blue or red cannot see the boat go any further than the purple line, the so-called curvature of Earth, is simply because of the way that we see. We can see the whole scene, being the green guy here. We can see the entire scene and know that no boat is going over any curvature. There is no curvature there. Both people are on a level plane. They just happen to lose sight of the boat because of their eyesight. So one final example, I'm sure you're getting this, or I hope you are. If you just don't pay attention too much to the distance up in the upper right, just kind of look at the idea of the scene. If we had a person in green at one bank and a person in purple on the other bank, and a person at red that could survey the whole scene, as the boat left the purple man and headed towards the green man, the purple man would lose the boat at 3 miles at the purple line there. But the red man would be able to see the entire scene. He would also see that the boat never goes over any curve. The boat goes right along the horizon, reaches the green guy. If the boat turned around and headed back, the green guy would lose the boat at the green line. But again, you have the red guy who sees the whole entire scene. I've been trying to make this video for a long time. I wanted to make a video that said, I can live on a ball and you can live on a ball, but we cannot live on a ball. The reason for that is it would be possible for one person to live on a ball, but as soon as you add a third person perspective, so once you get past you and your buddy and you add a third person's perspective, it is proven that we don't live on a ball.
The thing is, when you look out and you see a boat start to go over the horizon, if you suddenly get a pair of binoculars and look, it comes back again. And once it goes out of the sight of your binoculars, if you get a telescope, yeah, it comes back again. It doesn't go over any curve of the horizon. What we found, many people have done experiments with very high-powered zoom cameras, and they've watched a boat sail out to sea, and they've just kept trained on this boat. And what they see is, after a very long distance, you see an atmospheric effect where the bottom of the boat disappears and the top of the boat inverts, so you see a sort of mirror image. And that, with your eyesight, basically the bottom of the boat just melts into the horizon, so it looks like it. One of the best examples of that is the Antwerp Notre Dame spire, which can be seen something like 240 kilometers away from the spire. So that should be over a mile below the horizon, and you can still see it. There's been a few famous examples just recently of a man who took a picture across the Great Lakes from Michigan and was able to see, I believe it's Chicago, which he shouldn't have been able to see. And the television station basically said it was a mirage.
This is from Joshua Nowicki, and what you're seeing here is a mirage. We typically would not be able to see this from the Lake Michigan shore. We talked about this last night. Conditions are right on the lake that we're actually seeing a mirage of the Chicago skyline.
But they always say it's a mirage, but for a mirage to happen, you have to have very specific atmospheric conditions. And there have been so many people who have seen exactly the same thing on different days, different seasons, always the same. It's not a mirage. It's simply that you're looking across a plane. You see in a kind of pyramid shape. Yeah, you have a horizon at your eye level, and everything above the horizon will go down into the horizon. Yeah, everything below the horizon will seem to go up. Just like if you're in a long hallway, you'll see that the walls will start to move in, and the roof and the floor will start to move into the center. Yeah, so literally between you and the object you're looking at, there's all sorts of things, sort of like waves going up and down, and while you can't see them, if they're beyond the limit of your sight, they're still, sometimes they can still obscure what you're looking at. But it's just because they're between you and it. And it's just the way, it's literally perspective. It's better if I could draw a diagram, but it's a very difficult subject to get your head around if you're not used to it. But it is perspective. One sort of other proof is there's a place in Bolivia called Salar de Uyuni, which is a salt flat. It's literally 100 miles wide one way and 80 miles across. And it's perfectly flat. And when it rains, literally you get an inch of water and it looks like a perfect mirror. Now, how does that happen on a sphere? Yeah, it shows you that, you know, if you're one end of this salt flat, you can see perfectly clearly the other end 100 miles away. So it's just showing you that, you know, the Earth is flat, and without the effect of the waves in the sea, you'll be able to see a whole lot further. Exactly, it's a schoolboy mistake. You know, it's somebody given the task to mock up the Earth in the moon's sky. You know, you immediately think, well, it should be about the same size as the moon. If you don't think about it, yeah, you'd make it the same size. So yeah, it's just a schoolboy mistake. The other thing is, if you were to go to NASA and download one of their photos of the Earth in the moon's sky and put it in Photoshop, okay, drop the saturation and the levels down, you'll see that the Earth has been pasted in, because you'll see a rectangular box around the Earth. It's all fraud, it's all fake. Pretty much everything NASA puts out is fraudulent. There are no images of Earth from space. The only one that NASA actually claims is a photograph was from 1972, and it's the famous picture. It's got Africa sort of near the top, and it's the same picture they've been using for the last 40 or 50 years in every textbook. Every other image is what they call a composite. It's Photoshop.
There was another layer to sort of simulate the atmosphere.
And then there's this little bright spot.
It's called the specular highlight. So it's the reflection of sunlight off of water.
Those are the pieces, but you can't just slap them all together.
It just didn't look realistic. It looks kind of flat, or the clouds are sort of too see-through. So I just take Command Z a lot.
There's artistry to creating the world.
What I imagine it to be. Unfortunately, I'm not an astronaut. I've never been to space. But I've looked at these images over and over again, trying to sort of get the essence of it. It is photoshopped, but it's has to be. It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
And many of us have been looking at these images of Earth, including the one they called the Big Blue Marble, which was released in 2002, I think. Again, when you zoom into it with Photoshop, you'll see where they've used the clone tool in Photoshop to take a picture of one of the clouds and stamp it in various places around the picture. And they got lazy. In another image, they've even photoshopped the word sex in the clouds, which is a subliminal tool they use to get people to sort of relate to something. They literally, you can look at this, you can find it on NASA's website. In a video I'm working on at the moment, I've got a video from what they call the Galileo space probe. As it left Earth, it took a series of shots of Earth, apparently, and you see that over the course of 25 hours, the clouds never move. Okay. Now, I happened to find some pictures of satellite pictures of Earth, and I noticed that in these separately taken satellite shots, the clouds were exactly the same as the ones in this Galileo shot. So it's a cloud map. It would be very simple, wouldn't it? It would be very simple indeed to just silence everybody, you know, put an end to this topic once and for all, turn the Hubble round and show us Earth in real time, zooming in onto a place so that we can see what's happening at that place, and we know that there is something up there looking down on us from space. But they will not do it. They can't do it. It can't. It doesn't exist. It literally doesn't exist. Again, I don't know for sure because I've not been under there. I don't know what's past the outside of, or the the first few hundred miles of Antarctica. But everything I've seen over the last year and a half tells me that that is true and this isn't. And I'm starting to believe and trust my intuition about this. Nobody has actually really gone all the way across Antarctica. Yeah. Now there are millionaires out there who could, assemble the resources to make an expedition and completely, go across and chart Antarctica and make a name for themselves, being the first person to do that. Yeah. But nobody ever does. The only thing I do know is that nothing flies over the South Pole, because again, on a flat map, the South Pole, the continent of Antarctica, is the ring around the Earth. So you can't fly over the ring and get anywhere. That's why we're not allowed to go there. I mean, think about it. It's the only treaty that's all these countries have signed and never broken and completely agreed on. It's the only one. And what treaty is there that everybody's agreed on? We're being kept away from it for a reason. They have some scientific bases there, yeah, and literally it's controlled by the military. If you try and go there by yourself, you will be sort of picked up and escorted back. There was a guy called Jarls Anderhoy who tried to take a mission to the Antarctica, and he was picked up and taken back by the military. It's a good reason, because they don't want you finding out what's beyond. Admiral Byrd he actually did four expeditions, and most of them were military expeditions with huge military groups. Thousands of people, planes, boats, the works. And yes, he confirmed in an interview that he discovered a continent as big as the continental United States out there, that was with warm water lakes and mountains and everything, that was completely uninhabited. And he described it as the other side of the South Pole to Middle America. So on the globe, that means it would be somewhere in the Indian Ocean. There's a huge continent that nobody knows about. So yeah, there's more going on than meets the eye. The other thing is, after Admiral Byrd came back after his last expedition, Antarctica was sealed off, and both America and the Russians started firing nuclear missiles straight up. Now in America, that was called Operation Fishbowl, and it came under something called Project Dominic. Well, Fishbowl makes sense, because it seems like Admiral Byrd found the edge of the dome, okay, while he was out there. And as soon as he left there, they started firing missiles straight up, I believe, to try and test how far that dome went. If you look at the footage of these explosions, what you'll see is an explosion. Well, when a bomb goes off in mid-air, it's a fireball. It expands in all directions and mostly up. Okay. Now, if you look at these explosions on Operation Fishbowl, they explode outwards in a ring, which means it's exploding against something, because it can't rise with the heat. So it's exploding against something and exploding outwards. okay, and the middle of the explosion, you'll see it glows, hot, and then it cools over time. So it looks to me like they were exploding against a dome. Now, I said it was Operation Fishbowl, obviously Fishbowl, but there's a chap called Rob Skiba who discovered that the Project Dominic, the word Dominic means of the Lord, Fishbowl of the Lord. So I believe they clearly know that we're in an enclosed system, and Admiral Byrd found the edge, and they've tested to see how far it goes up. They will also say that if a sniper is trying to hit something a great distance, a couple of miles away, they have to take into consideration the spinning of the Earth, because they say that as the bullet leaves the muzzle of the gun, it's now independent of the rotation of the Earth. So, the Earth will spin away from where the bullet, and you have to take that into account. They say that about artillery shells as well, but it's not true. If that was true, a sniper would have to spend ages and ages calculating how to make that shot, and they don't. They literally take into consideration the wind and the elevation, and they don't take the Coriolis effect into consideration at all. Also, planes. If that works for bullets, if bullets, as soon as they leave the Earth, they're now independent of the spin, then why doesn't it work for planes? Yeah. There's a video on YouTube that actually tries to explain that the Coriolis effect works by using the example of a paper plane. You have to throw it. If you throw it north, the Earth will spin and the plane will land sort of east. But if you take the idea of a real plane, a plane would have to aim north to go east in that case. But that's not what happens. And if that was the case as well, planes would have to land on runways that are moving, and that would be impossible. But how is it that you can take a flight from London to New York, and it will take exactly the same time as a flight from New York to London? Yeah, one's with the spin of the planet, and the other one's against it. So it doesn't make sense. They'll say that the whole atmosphere is moving, yeah, with the planet, but that doesn't make sense either, because the atmosphere, say it's that thick, the top layer of the atmosphere will be moving slow, and as further you get in, will be moving faster. So how, if everything is moving like that, how do you get a light breeze that blows against the spin of the planet? How do you get a breeze that goes from north to south? Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. And again, science will give you calculations and esoteric ideas, but you can go out and look for yourself, and you'll see what makes sense and what doesn't. The other thing is that we have senses to be able to sense acceleration. Yeah, you get in a car and somebody puts their foot down, and you get thrown back in your seat. You can feel the acceleration. Yeah, you can feel changes, very minute changes of acceleration. Yeah, so how is it that if you live up here in Macedonia, yeah, which is spinning at maybe 700 miles an hour, yeah, because the speed it's spinning is slower than this speed. So if you took a flight down to Africa, yeah, on the equator, why don't you feel the change in acceleration? You have these senses that will register the slightest change, yeah, but you get off the plane there and you don't feel dizzy, because now you're moving a lot faster. So no, it doesn't make sense. Well, you saw from his balloon when he stepped out on the platform, the curvature of the Earth. Yeah, it looked very obvious. Oh, everybody pointed it and said, "Oh, look, there's a curvature." But when you actually looked at the ground, when you looked at the Earth, well, it was New Mexico. That's where he jumped. The whole Earth that you saw there was New Mexico. So if that was a curvature, the Earth must be very, very small indeed, and New Mexico must take up a huge part of it. Yeah, it was a fisheye lens to curve that, to make that curve. And when he jumped, it took, I think it took him like 2 hours to get to that height. Yeah, he went straight up. In that 2 hours, the Earth should have rotated away quite a distance, but I think he only landed something like 70 kilometers away from where he sort of went up in the first place, and that can be attributed to the wind. So no, I mean that there's no proof whatsoever. There is so much to this. As I said, if you start looking and asking questions about the very basic things, you'll find that the answers you were given as a child just do not make sense. The idea there is that it must be a globe because the sun. If the sun's here, then it's got to be dark on the other side. Well, the thing about the sun is that we're told it's 93 million miles away. It's not. It's actually something around 3,000 miles away and about 34 miles across. That might sound really crazy, but if you look at look out on a day that's got broken cloud, you'll see that the sun rays will come out at an angle. Most people have seen this. The rays come down in angles. If the sun was 93 million miles away, then all the light will be coming parallel. So if you imagine, there's no way to show 93 million miles, but something way, way over there, all the light that reaches this globe will be parallel. There's no way that light can come that far and spread out like that. Now, if you follow those light rays, you'll see exactly where the sun is. And as I said, it works out to be about 3,100 miles. Now, if that's the case, and the sun is circling over this flat plane, yeah, its light range is limited. So it's illuminating the part of the Earth it's like over at the moment. So, say over Europe, it might, or over South America there, it's over there. Well, Australia's going to be in the dark because the sun isn't going to throw enough light to illuminate Australia. Yeah. Now, most people say, well, I see the sun rise and set. How can that be if it's just going round in a circle? Well, that's perspective again. If you actually see video of the sun coming up and going down, many times you'll see that the sun starts off as it's coming up very, very tiny, and it gets bigger as it gets closer to midday and then gets smaller again. It's literally that effect of perspective, with some things above you, like the ceiling in a hallway, yeah, as it goes further away, it will seem to sink down towards the horizon until it disappears beyond the limit of your sight. And that's all you're seeing. You're seeing literally the sun circling overhead, but seeming to set. And there was a team in California that launched a rocket 75 miles up. And you can find this video on YouTube. It's difficult to watch because the cameras, there were 7 cameras on this rocket, and it was spinning as it went up, so it's very, difficult to watch. But this chap, Refi, studied this video meticulously, looking for some kind of mistake or some kind of evidence, and he realized that he could see the moon. So he went online to a website called timeanddate.com, where it will show you graphically where the moon and sun is at any time on any day. And he did a bit of detective work to find out exactly when the rocket was fired, and found that the moon should have been on the other side of the planet, over Australia. Now, the rocket was 75 miles up and it could see the moon, but anybody down on the ground wouldn't be able to see it. But the point is that if the moon was over Australia, on the other side of it would be on the other side of the planet, which is, there. So down there on the other side of the planet, and the rocket went up here. So there's no way that rocket should have been able to see the moon on the other side of the planet. If you watch the trajectory of the space shuttle, it doesn't go straight up it always goes in a curve and out to sea. The point is that they actually go horizontal. The space shuttle goes horizontal. It never goes any further up. It goes horizontal, very, very low down in the atmosphere, because it drops its external tank while it's still in the atmosphere. So you know, it's still in the atmosphere while it's horizontal, so it never gets any higher, and it goes out of sight, not because it goes too high, because it goes too far downrange. And it seems that nobody's ever on the space shuttle, and the proof of that is the Challenger disaster. In, I believe it's 1986, the Challenger exploded just after takeoff and killed 7 astronauts. But it turns out that 6 of the astronauts are still alive, and most of them are using their original names. And you can find pictures of them. They're using the same names, and they're doing ordinary jobs now. Teachers, lecturers, lawyers, whatever. But they're still alive. I think it's a mock-up. I think it's an empty shell, and literally it just dishes in the sea, out of sight. And they have a plane that's mocked up to look like a space shuttle, and you can see whenever the space shuttle lands, you can hear it. It's a loud jet engine. You watch any video of the space shuttle landing, you can tell it's a jet engine. It's a jet-powered aircraft.
Commander Charlie, Hobart flaring up the shuttle's nose for landing and...
Yeah, it's not a glider. In my video, I show you a glider, how that seems, and then I show you the space shuttle, and yeah, it's not a glider, it's an aircraft. And that's what they're fooling us, taking billions of dollars in and giving us images and fake planes for that 10 billion, you know, however many billions of dollars it is. You've got the external tank and the space shuttle, yeah. It's like horizontal at this point, and then they drop the tank, okay? Now, the space shuttle isn't powered at this point because the tank has all the fuel,
yes.
Okay? So, when the engine stops, the tank is dropped, basically the space shuttle and tank should follow the same path, because neither of them are powered. They should both fall in the same way. Now, because the tank has all the fuel, those pods on the back of the space shuttle aren't fuel tanks. They have a very, very small amount of fuel in there for orbital manoeuvring. But from this point, which again is still in the Earth's atmosphere, because the tank, you know, is falling there, it now has to go from there into orbit. They haven't got the fuel there to insert it into orbit. Disney and NASA have worked very closely together. Disney worked with NASA on the moon project. Yeah, they made it, they filmed it so that it would be entertaining for the masses. Yeah, and they're still working with NASA. I absolutely believe that Stanley Kubrick, you know, filmed the moon landing. I think that he left a few clues just to say, so that, you know,
like Michelangelo.
Yeah, so that we eventually would know that this was his work. Yeah, I did this. It's a joke. It was meant to fool people in 1960s. So you got like clear footprints, but yet you don't have an impression where the pads of the lunar lander were, or a blast crater where the engines were blasting downwards. And also the camera followed the capsule straight up, right? And it followed it very precisely, right? And it stopped when it started to pitch over, right? Now, NASA says, oh, we did it remotely. Well, there was a 2 or 3 second delay between sending signals and the camera starting to respond, and then another couple of seconds for them to see what's happened. So it's next to impossible to get that sort of accuracy with that kind of, and it's only done once. I mean, they can't sort of keep doing it over and get it right. They do it once and they got it right the first time. So no, it's either they left an astronaut on the moon to film them, or it was fake. It was fake. It was absolutely fake. There's not too many people involved in this. I mean, NASA controls space as such. The other agencies, have popped up, but literally it's a money-making scheme. NASA makes, hundreds of billions of dollars a year.
Dobra, Rusi.
Okay. The Russians, okay, they're getting in on the act as well. They make money from this. Yeah, it's money for old rope. Have you seen the imagery that they put out? The Chinese have put out, or I think it was the Japanese that put out images of Earth from the moon, and it looks even more fake than NASA's ones. It's a money-making scheme, and they're all joining the bandwagon. But that isn't the first thing that's been hidden over the years. I mean, we're all driving petrol cars because 100 years ago, the Rockefeller family basically cornered the market on oil, and the car industry was going electric. So all cars would have been electric from the get-go, but they basically forced everybody to use petrol cars, and have hidden this secret. And literally, we could be running around in electric cars that have unlimited mileage by now, but we're still using these 100-year-old machines, dirty machines, because of a secret that's been kept. It's easy. If everybody's been trained into believing that this is real, right? And there's space, and it's within our interest to explore space and go to the moon, go to Mars. Yeah, people will pay for it, and they're making billions. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's more to it, because I believe there's a big deception coming, and it's to do with aliens, because now since Roswell, 1947. That was the first time anybody had ever understood the idea of aliens. But since then, we've been bombarded with science fiction and the idea of aliens. And most people believe there are aliens out there. So they've prepared us for an alien invasion or an alien saviour. And I think the flat Earth came along at the right moment to educate people, to make people believe or understand that we've been lied to. And if you know, as I know in my heart now, that is real and this isn't, I will not be fooled by aliens coming, because there are no aliens. There's no space. Yeah, it's all fantasy by Disney and NASA. This world is very different from what most people think it is. There are very powerful people who essentially rule this world right now. And the ordinary person is a slave in this world. And slaves aren't educated. They're taught what they need to, or they need to know. That's it. They're not taught truth. They're taught what they need to know. And so you're taught enough so that you can, do the paperwork and operate the machinery, but you're not meant to know what's really going on, because that's the power they have over us. They know what's going on, how this world works. We don't, so they can control us. One of the things about slavery is the slaves weren't freed. They were never freed. When the 14th Amendment or 13th Amendment, I can't remember which one, actually made everybody a slave. The citizen...
Actually, it was opposite.
Yes.
Instead of slaves to be free people became slaves.
Exactly.
It was
so if you're a citizen of a country, you're a slave. That's what a citizen is. So they literally extended the slavery to everybody and made it an open prison. Yeah, and that's where everybody in the world lives now. We're slaves to very powerful masters. We don't see bars.
No.
Yeah? The bars are the borders of the country. Right? You have to use a pass to get out, and they'll let you out if you show them your pass. Yeah, and sometimes they won't let you out. You know, as I was coming here, I was lining up to go on the plane, and somebody in front of me was told, no, you can't fly. They found something in your bag, so you can't fly today. So, you know, we have, as I said, we have natural rights to travel anywhere on this earth. We were born on this earth. We have the right to travel anywhere, but our masters have kept us in small, open prisons that you need to get permission to move around. This idea that, billions of years ago, nothing exploded and then everything came out of that nothingness, ridiculous. But they try to make you believe that, the idea that a supreme being, a creator, created this is ridiculous compared to that idea. I mean, if you look at it objectively, I would lean towards a creator because, there's so much that points to, the fingerprint of a creator. But it's no less ridiculous than nothing exploding and becoming something. In my opinion, the Big Bang theory and the theory of evolution and the ball Earth theory are all interlinked, and they're all there to make us feel as though we're insignificant. We're small, tiny,
miniature,
unimportant pieces of slime crawling around on a speck of dust in an infinite universe. If that's true, and there's no purpose, there's no meaning to anything, then our owners can do whatever they want with us. Then, this is all accidental, so food can be genetically modified because it's imperfect. We can be modified because we're imperfect. If we realize that this is the universe, and
complete universe.
Yes, this system is is everything. Everything that NASA has put out is CGI, is fake. Okay, people say, I think you mentioned it. If you look out into the universe, you see that the moon is round, spherical, and the planets are spherical, and so why are we flat? Well, how do you know that the planets and the stars are spherical? All you get is, if you look for a telescope, you see a flat disk. If you think you see a spherical shape there, well, it needs two eyes to resolve 3D. If you're looking for a telescope, you can't see anything in 3D. It's going to be flat anyway. So all you see is a flat blob of light. It's only NASA that's given you these beautiful pictures of so-called planets and stars. Yeah. So it's a fallacy to say, well, everything else out there is spherical, so we must be. How this is special. So why? It's like saying a basketball is round, so why isn't the court round? It's a fallacy. So this idea of a ball Earth, theory of evolution, the Big Bang, is all about making us feel nothing, so that we can be used. If everybody realized how special we all are, how unique every single life is, then this whole world would change overnight. We wouldn't allow ourselves to be used by this cabal. We wouldn't allow this planet to be destroyed, because they're destroying it because, oh, it's just an accidental planet, one of millions. We've found other Earths. Eventually, if this one gets too messed up, we'll go to another one. No, this is it. So if we all realise that, then we wouldn't allow all these things that are going on. It's all about control. There are a small group of people who want to control the world, And because there's so many of us out there, you know, they can't control us directly. They can't, you know, this small group of people can't, you know, come round to all of us and control us directly. So they must use our own minds, our own hearts and minds against ourselves. And this is what they've done. They've educated us into this world, into this globe spinning, you know, heliocentric Big Bang evolution world, which makes us nothing. This is amazing because when I first started looking, it was about 1.5 years ago, I looked on YouTube and there were maybe about 100 videos, not even that probably, and nobody was talking about it, right? And then over 2015, it exploded. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of people looking at Flat Earth now. And what happens is that you'll watch something or read something and something will strike a chord in your mind and you'll think, yeah, I've always wondered that. And what will happen is you will start feverishly researching. I mean, what happened to me was as soon as I got that, I spent every waking hour looking for things and testing things, and this seems to be replicated with thousands of people around the world who suddenly come into this. They start, you know, researching and getting a passion for this, because this is what I think, it's the truth, and we recognise the truth when we hear it, and you know, we feel it, and this I believe has come at the exact right time, so that we awaken to what's going on in the world. Nothing else, you know, 9/11 even hasn't awoken people, right, to this extent. You know, for me, I've been an atheist for 40 years. From the age of 13, you know, I didn't want anything to do with God and Bibles and whatever and religions. And now I know for a fact there is a creator. I've seen his fingerprint, you know, not just with the flat earth. Everything I've done in the last 5 or 10 years has led me to see that there is a creator now. And there's a great many people out there who have had exactly the same revelation as I have. And it is. I'm now following the commandments and trying to be the best human being that I can be, because there are only two possibilities. Either there is a God or there isn't. And both of them are terrifying.
Yeah.
If there isn't a God, then nobody's in control. We're hurtling through space and there's no plan and there's no nothing, and you know, that's terrifying. If there is a God, then we'd better find out who he is and what he wants and do exactly what he says. And it turns out that he gave us very specific instructions.
Remember this moment as the last time you thought the flat earth was stupid.
Hello everyone, this is ODD, and yes, I'm finally admitting that even though I don't like labels, I'm a flat earther. Based on my research for the past 10 months, our world is very different from the model that we are being taught by the authority on the matter. It took me a while to come to terms with this, and it took even longer to gain the courage to talk about it. It can be pretty embarrassing to go against popular opinion, but this is real. It's not a psyop, it's not a distraction, and it's not a bandwagon. It's a reasonable debate. It's thousands of people taking what we've been told and comparing it to what we see and experience, only to find out that they do not match up. Once you start digging into this, it becomes clear that there is no evidence for the speculated spinning ball that we supposedly live on, and everything points to a flat earth. The flat earth is much more than just reasonable. The one and only reason that it's reasonable to argue against the flat earth is that we've all been taught otherwise our whole lives. We blindly believe something that A, has never been proven, and B, is pretty much fucking impossible. Thanks to people like Eric Dubé, the flat Earth has re-emerged and it has more steam than ever. Before I've ever even entertained the flat Earth, I knew not to trust the space programs of the world. Close examinations of NASA and other space programs reveal that things aren't what they seem and that we, the people, are being lied to. We have no real pictures of the Earth, and no matter how hard we try, we just can't find the curvature. Not only that, but flight paths make more sense on a flat map, and large bodies of water not being able to curve into a giant ball completely resonates.
Forensically speaking, the globe model is so very unlikely that any good detective wouldn't believe a fucking word the globe says. The globe story is so full of circumstantial, impossible coincidences, which only prove that the globe is a fucking liar.
We'll be going over that in this video, as well as other reasons why the world isn't what we're led to believe. I appreciate you tuning in. Let's get started. Our daily observations of the Earth are consistent with a flat and stationary surface. Most, if not all, ancient civilizations knew that the Earth was flat. The people of today would say that ancient cultures were ignorant and unaware, yet they accomplished great feats that we still can't accomplish to this day. The truth is that they had real knowledge, and some of us only have an education. But what is an education? Education is when you are told what to think and how to think. Those that are able to remember and regurgitate what they've been told on command are considered well educated. But there is a big difference between being educated and being intelligent. Just because you believe what you've been told doesn't make it true. In fact, the flat versus spherical Earth is a debate that has never really died. It's been raging for centuries. It was a huge argument as recently as the early and mid-1900s, but with programs like NASA, founded in 1958, the latter half of the 20th century was a win for the spherical Earth. It wasn't a question for the average person anymore. Though at the time the shape of the Earth was still up to be proven, NASA claims that they went to the moon and captured a shot of the spherical Earth as if they always knew it was indeed spherical.
Those of you who think this technical difficulty was planned and think I'm scamming you, go do it for yourself. Because you're going to find the exact same thing. I got nothing to hide here. This is live on the air, okay? I'm going to zoom in on the Earth in Photoshop. Can you see the Earth? To image, adjust, levels, and I'm going to bring the levels over here. And I'm going to bring the levels up. Uh-oh. What is that? Why is there a square box around the Earth allegedly taken from the scientists on the moon in Apollo 17? And people wonder why I don't trust NASA. That's why I don't trust NASA. I mean, they're always out there saying, you know, Rob, everybody's trying to show you stuff from space and you keep rejecting it. This is why I reject it. These guys are liars, you know?
What are some of the basic observations someone can make to ascertain that the Earth is neither a globe or spinning?
We've been taught that we're on a ball spinning around the sun, and so to hear that you might be on a flat plane, motionless at the center of the universe with all the celestial bodies spinning around you, just as it appears, actually comes as a surprise. But it shouldn't, because our eyes, experience, and common sense all tell us that the horizon is perfectly flat, and we feel motionless. We don't hear ourselves whizzing by at thousands of miles per hour. No matter how high amateur rockets or balloons have gone up, the horizon rises to the eye of the observer all the way up, and that's only consistent with a flat plane. Their theory just gets more and more wild as time has gone on. And so, yeah, it began with the spinning Earth going 1,000 miles per hour, which is then circling around the sun at 67,000 miles per hour, which then they decided the sun wasn't a heliocentric model, but more of an acentric model, where they don't know where the center is, and we're just exploding out of a big bang. So the sun, we're spinning around the sun, and then the sun and us are spinning around the Milky Way galaxy, they say, at 500,000 miles per hour. And then the entire Milky Way galaxy, they say, is shooting off from the Big Bang at 670 million miles per hour, almost the speed of light. So there's at least 4 rip-raging, contradictory motions supposedly going at all times, yet you don't experience any of it, nor can you measure any of it using the stars. The flat motionless Earth is, not only is it the greatest conspiracy of all, it's also the easiest to prove. I mean, it just is flat and motionless, just as it appears. Look into it more and more, make it a thing to try and debunk it, if you will. You know, even if you want to do it that way. Negative reinforcement works too. Try as you will, you're only going to find proofs for the flat motionless Earth. You're not going to confirm that you're on a spinning ball.
The curvature of the Earth eludes us. Either the Earth is much larger in circumference than we are told, or the curve just doesn't exist. People assume that there is a curve, but it's never really been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Cameras with fisheye lenses, Hollywood movies, and NASA CGI are the closest we get to seeing curvature.
The deception and the lies are just so pervasive, and they're just so deep that I swear it gives me a headache.
The surface of water is always level. This is just natural physics. We know this, that water, if unobstructed and uncontained, will flow outwards, finding it the easiest course to maintain its own level, right? So, but the Ball Earth model claims that the oceans are huge 100-mile walls of curved water curving around the ball. That's ridiculous. They say that gravity makes this possible, but you don't see that. You go to the beach and you see a completely flat horizon. You see water just ever so gently coming up on the shore.
So there's the pretty blue marble that NASA claims we are living on, with circumference of 24,901 and 3959 radius. So to find the curvature, you take 8 inches times your distance squared. That's 8 inches times your distance squared, and if you don't square the distance, you end up with this, and this is not what NASA has shown us. They have given us a beautiful blue marble that we love. So you get 8 inches for 1 mile, 32 inches in 2 miles, 16.6 feet with 5 miles, so on and so forth. So what I did is I shot this pier, which is in Daytona Beach, Florida, and as you can see, between the water and the walkway of the pier is about 12 to 16 feet based on the height of the people and the railing. So I started at Granada, which is 4.92 miles away, and I shot this, and based on that distance and the formula, there should be 16 feet of curvature, but obviously you can still see the entire gap under the walkway there between that and the water. So in addition to that, behind that pier is actually a lighthouse, which you can see right above the pier. You can see the light. That is 16 miles away from my location, and I shot that lighthouse. Now that lighthouse is 175 feet tall, and the curvature from 16 miles away should be 170 feet. You can clearly see about the entire lighthouse beyond that pier. So like I said, there should be 170 feet of curvature, but there's none. And those hotels there are even further. Those are in New Smyrna, which is 20 miles away. If NASA is right and there is, we do live on a ball, they're going to have to make up that curvature. If it's not in the 20 miles I'm shooting, well then that means it's got to be made up further on down the line. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say we live on this ball and then say, oh, you can't detect the curvature. Well, you got to detect it somewhere, because if it's not dropping here, it's going to have to drop even more down the lines in order to make that circle, that ball they say we live on. And it's pretty round. That blue marble they give us is perfectly round.
Lighthouses are one great example. The Isle of Wight Lighthouse in England, it's 180 feet high and can be seen up to 42 miles away, a distance at which modern astronomers say the light should fall 996 feet below the line of sight. Why can you still see it? Another one worth mentioning that people be familiar with is the Statue of Liberty. It stands 326 feet above sea level, and on a clear day can be seen as far as 60 miles away. Now, if the Earth was a globe at the dimensions that they give us, that would put Lady Liberty at an impossible 2,074 feet below the horizon.
No, not one picture of the Earth. Imagine that. 2016, and we still don't have a picture of our home. Thousands of satellites supposedly orbiting the Earth. Why can't we get thousands of pictures? One shot with the whole Earth in it. Hell, we should have a channel on cable that shows the Earth rotating 24 hours a day, every day. Nope. Let's listen to NASA's very own Robert Simon talk about how we get our fake pictures of Earth.
In 1972, we saw our home in a new way. Apollo 17 astronauts snapped this picture.
It gave people the first look at their home planet as a single entity.
Last week, scientists at NASA released this. The shot is compiled from data from NASA's VEERS instrument, which orbits the Earth about every 100 minutes, taking measurements of light coming off the planet. That can be translated into ribbons of imagery like this, and then into one of these. And this is just the latest in NASA's Earth from Space album, which may be one of the most mind-expanding collections of images in human history. Then in 2002, Blue Marble 2.0. NASA's Rob Simon made this. Simon's job is...
It's primarily taking data and making pictures out of it.
That's what this is, a composite of data sets from several different instruments translated into a picture.
So we actually had to take clouds out.
They stashed the clouds for later, went onto the ocean. That came from an instrument that measures phytoplankton in the sea.
Where it was low, I colored it dark blue because they're low mostly in mid-oceans. And then where it's a little bit higher, it was like a little bit brighter green.
Then add the clouds back in.
There's a small problem with it because there's a very slight gap in between each orbit.
So some of those are painted on.
It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
Then
there was another layer to sort of simulate the atmosphere.
And then there's this little bright spot.
It's called the specular highlight. So it's the reflection of sunlight off of water.
Those are the pieces, but you can't just slap them all together.
It just didn't look realistic. It looks kind of flat, or the clouds are sort of too see-through. So I just hit Command Z a lot.
There's artistry to creating the world.
What I imagine it to be. Unfortunately, I'm not an astronaut. I've never been to space. But I've looked at these images over and over again, trying to sort of get the essence of it. It is photoshopped, but it's has to be. It is photoshopped, but it's has to be. It is photoshopped, but it's has to be. It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
Excuse me, I'm allergic to bullshit. Not having one authentic picture of the Earth alone is a huge red flag.
Christoph, let me ask you, why do you think that Truman has never come close to discovering the true nature of his world until now?
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
The flat Earth model is a working model. It's by no means definitive due to the nature of this massive cover-up. For the past 500 years, we've been completely buying into the Copernicus heliocentric model, but what we do know about the flat Earth is based on the azimuthal equidistant map that seems to be working out. This map goes as far back as the year 1000 and possibly earlier, now used as an official map by the U.S. Geological Survey and also as the official logo for the United Nations. Is this our real home being hidden from us in plain sight? I think it is. The first thing a lot of people say is, where's the edge? Well, look at this map where Antarctica is a 360-degree ice barrier that holds the water in. These ice walls are real, and they stand 150 feet above the surface of the water. Then you need to understand that there is no independent access to Antarctica. Average people can only go there on a guided tour. It has no towns, no cities, and no permanent residences. What's past the 150-foot ice wall is anyone's guess. How far the ice extends, how it terminates, and what exists beyond it. The Antarctic Treaty, signed in 1959 by 12 nations and more later on, states that Antarctica is for peaceful purposes only. No military activities, just scientific research and government exploration. Expeditions by any party must be discussed in advance. It's the longest and most successful treaty between nations. The treaty also states that there are ships, stations, and equipment to ensure compliance of the treaty. Sounds like military activity to me. Anyway, so this azimuthal equidistant map appears to be correct for the most part. Over the centuries, there's been other maps that look pretty close to it as well. Let's look at an interesting story that was recently in the news that supports this flat map. A woman gave birth on a flight from Bali to Los Angeles, so the flight made an emergency landing in Alaska. Here's what it would look like on a globe. Now, here's what it would look like on a flat Earth. Which one makes more sense? Exactly. A big issue I was having with the flat Earth for the longest time was the sunrise and sunsets. I realized that it was a perspective issue. First, you must understand that the sun is not 93 million miles away. If it was, we would never see anything like this here. This is concentrated because it's closer. It's much more probable that the sun is only a few thousand miles away and that it's the same size as the moon. Once you comprehend this, all of the sudden, solar eclipses make sense. Holy fucking shit! Something that makes sense! Okay, so the sun is close, which gives it the ability to spotlight the area that it's over, and when it leaves your view, due to perspective, it takes the light with it. There is a generous amount of light where the sun is at, but since it's so close, it doesn't spread its light like it would if it were bigger and further. The sun circumnavigates the Earth like a huge clockwork. Sometimes that takes a while to sink in. Alright, let's talk about the Coriolis effect. The Coriolis effect states that when a moving object leaves the ground, the Earth continues to rotate, meaning that when shooting a gun at a certain distance, the bullet would be a little off due to the Earth's rotation. If that's the case, then airplanes would have to account for the Coriolis effect, but they don't. This is only a few things that work better on a flat, motionless Earth. Do you need 100 excuses as to why you're not feeling any motion or seeing any curvature? Are those excuses easier to believe? Or is it easier to use Occam's razor and go with what our senses are telling us? The Earth is flat and not spinning.
Now, real quick, let's kind of just explain the Coriolis effect in layman's terms. The Coriolis effect is the effect that when the bullet leaves the barrel of the gun, it is actually leaving the surface of the Earth. So as the bullet leaves the barrel of the gun, the Earth is still rotating, and the bullet is not rotating with the Earth. So the Earth will actually rotate out from underneath of the bullet while it is in flight.
This one is a touchy subject. This whole fucking video's a touchy subject. So anyway, this one's hard to get across to people big time. But outer space is up for debate. Space programs are compartmentalized, and most astronauts are Freemasons that have to swear an oath of secrecy when dealing with the so-called missions. The thing is that there is so much footage of NASA and other space agencies making mistakes. Sometimes we could see bubbles in the spacewalks. Sometimes we could see harnesses and wires on the people in the International Space Station. The permed hair that moves nothing like it would in zero gravity. These are huge red flags. Not to mention the Van Allen radiation belt. The Van Allen radiation belt is a layer of energetic charged particles that is held in place around a magnetized planet such as Earth by the planet's magnetic field. Sounds kinda like a dome if there is one. Oddly enough, one of NASA's employees admitted that this radiation belt needs to be figured out before humans could pass through it. Listen closely.
As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. Radiation like this could harm the guidance systems, onboard computers, or other electronics on Orion. Naturally, we have to pass through this danger zone twice, once up and once back. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
Let's talk about satellites. We've already discussed how there are no pictures of the Earth, so are satellites even real? Not likely. Ground towers are built all over the world and are more than adequate to relay our television, radio, and cell phone service.
All GPS is done through land-based towers, and things like Google Earth are taken with high-altitude planes, and most of them are just done with cars on street level. Did you know that satellites were actually invented by Arthur C. Clarke, the science fiction author?
I didn't know that.
they shortly became science fact after that. The geostationary satellite, look it up. It was created by a science fiction author. And then within a decade, NASA claims to have sent a real one up there, and ever since then, that's where we get all our communications from.
So if satellites were real, we would constantly hear stories of them being hit by meteors or comets, and that doesn't happen. No one's ever lost their direct TV feed during the Perseids meteor shower because one of the meteors knocked out one of the satellites. It doesn't happen, it's never happened, and it won't happen. And that to me tells me there is no satellites. You would constantly be worried about them, and you would constantly hear about them having something happen, and it's so rare that you hear that.
So you may or may not have heard the term cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is when new information challenges your beliefs and you just can't let go. It's just like that scene in The Matrix.
No. I don't believe it. It's not possible. Stop. Let me out! Let me out! I want out!
We have a rule. We never free a mind once it's reached a certain age.
It's not easy going through this kind of deception and then realizing that your whole life was spent thinking and believing one thing when it's the opposite. Nobody wants to feel like they've been fooled, like they've been had. I'm a human just like you, and I never would have thought in my wildest dreams that I'd be on this kind of journey. This journey of realization and reckoning. This journey of putting everything I know to the side so I can absorb information that seems ridiculous, yet so sensible. It's time to say fuck it. It's not your fault that you were wrong. It's not your fault that you fell for a trick that the whole world also fell for. I'm right here with you. It's time to take down your mental barrier and recognize that we have a lot of work to do in order to find out what this place really is and why we're here. It's not to be slaves of the dollar. It's not to be slaves of the clock. Our reality is being manipulated and hidden from us. Please wake up and try to awaken those around you. So how did this happen? Okay, let's start in the classroom. The first time anybody enters a school classroom, they are introduced to the globe model of the Earth. This three-dimensional scale model of the Earth that has never been proven was invented in the 1400s. Fast forward to 1927, a big-budget movie company called Universal Pictures came out with its movie intro, and guess what? The spinning ball Earth still hasn't been proven. This is 30 years before NASA was founded. Over the years, Universal kept coming out with similar logo intros, and to this day, we see the spinning ball Earth before many of the movies that we watch. Besides, there are countless movies about outer space that use the same model. We have been indoctrinated, and it's as simple as that. For the spherical Earth to remain unproven after this long is a wake-up call to everybody that lives here. We need to shed this programming right here, right now, and find out what the fuck is going on. No more embracing this sick illusion that was created by psychopaths. I'm going to keep searching for answers and trying to make something happen. All I want to know is, who's coming with me?
For a meeting of the Flat Earth Society.
I'd like to be an explorer, like the Great Magellan.
Oh, you're too late. There's really nothing left to explore.